All right, everybody. This is Hope from the Rhinestone World. I'm hoping that you guys can all hear me. I don't see any questions or anything yet, but if you can't hear me, if you can see my screen, just let me know. Yes, Renee. Awesome. You can hear me. You can see my screen. Perfect. So I'm just going to let you guys know. I'm going to warn you that this is my first webinar. So I'm going to ask you guys to be gentle, and we'll see what we got going on, all right? So what we're going to go over today is a bit of tracing, and this is one of the most helpful tools that you can learn in Corel. It's just how to do tracing from maybe JPEG images that somebody sends you, a logo that you have for your company, or just any other image. I grabbed some ice cream cones because I love ice cream, and it's the best. So we're going to do two different tracing methods. We're going to do a bitmap trace, which is going to make Corel do all the work for you. And then we're going to do a B-spline tracing, and that's the way that you can trace it yourself by hand. And those are both super useful tools. You'll use them in different cases, but I'm going to go over both ways. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. And I know the beautiful Rudy is in and answering questions, hopefully. I don't see Rudy in here, but he said he was going to be. So let's get going. Again, I have some ice cream cones here. It's really weird. I always, you guys make sure to ask plenty of questions. Rudy wants you guys to ask questions. Again, first webinar, so let's see what happens, all right? Let's see if I do any more after this. Cool, yeah, so ice cream cones. We're going to start tracing. So I just went ahead and I pulled this image in from the internet. This isn't something that we want you guys to do a ton of. It's something that I just did so we can show you the basic tools in CorelDraw, but we don't recommend that you grab any logos or anything from the internet and trace them and sell them. A lot of that could get you into trouble. It's just not something we recommend you do a ton of. So again, we'll get started. What I got is these ice cream cones. I'm going to come up here to the Trace Bitmap tool, and I tend to talk fast and I tend to move fast. So if you guys need me to slow down, just go ahead and let me know. So I'm going to come up here to the Trace Bitmap. Open it up and we see three options. We see Quick Trace, Centerline Trace, and Outline Trace. All right. I'm gonna go with Outline Trace, and I'm just going to choose any of these options, and I'll show you in a second how we can go back and change these options if we don't like it. But what I'm going to do is click, I just always do clip art first, and then we're going to go to Reduce Bitmap. Alright, and it's going to pop up this screen here. It takes a second to load because Corel is pretty much doing all of our work for us. So we're going to let it do that. And what we see is this right here is our original image, the one that we're tracing, and this is what Corel has created for us. So it's taking it from a bitmap, which is made of pixels and little dots, to line drawings. So this is actually all made of lines, and it's a vector image now. And we see the checkers in the background. Those are going to be, that's going to show that there is no background. So it subtracted the white. We also see, of course, our ice cream cones. And if you guys noticed, we have some lines missing from the top to the bottom. So when Corel traced it, it didn't see that. And what we can do in that case is we can play with some of our options over here to try to make it look a little bit more like the original. So I chose clip art. I don't know if you guys remember when I originally clicked on the trace bitmap, I went to the clip art option. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and these are all of our different types of traces. So let's try, we don't maybe like the clip art so much, let's try logo, and we'll see what happens there. Alright, now we got our lines, which I like that a little bit better. Maybe that didn't work out for us so well. We can go through detailed logo, we can do high quality image, and all of these are going to get us vector images. It's just a different type of trace. So for maybe if you're doing a really complicated design, you'll need to play with these options a little bit more. Some other things that we can look at while we're in this tracing menu is these options right here. So we have delete original image. Rudy doesn't have it checked on his computer, which I'm not sure why. I'm going to leave it unchecked to show you guys what it does. And then we have remove background. And what that remove background did was it took away this white again. So what from white to checkerboard. And when we go back into CorelDraw, I'll show you guys exactly what that does. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now we're back to our regular CorelDraw screen. And if you guys remember, what I didn't do was click the delete original image button. So when I pull this away, I'm left with two images, and I'm going to show you the difference here. So we have our wireframe button here, and this is our regular. Our wireframe is going to show us the outline, and this is the difference. This is why we needed to trace our object in the first place. This is the original image, and this is the one that we traced. The original image is a JPEG, so Corel doesn't see it as a vector. It's not going to be able to cut when you send it to the cutter, and that's the bad one. This is the good one, the one that we just created. And I can just click on the bad one, and I can delete it. That one's gone. And again, I'm going to hit Control-Z. You can tell it's the bad one because of that box around it. So that is not a vector, and I'm actually going to move it over for later on when we do our other version of tracing. All right, so now I'm going to go back into Enhance. Is everybody with me so far? I usually work in the call center, so I'm usually on the phone with people, and they can respond, and it's awesome because I know that they're actually paying attention. You guys, if you have any questions, if you need me to slow down again, if what I'm saying is just gibberish, just let me know. I don't mind going over it again. All right? Jane says she can hear me. That's what's up, Jane. Thanks, Renee. You're the best. All right. So now we have our vector image. And as you can see, I can move it all around like this. It actually turned out really well. But if we zoom in a bit, and I'm just scrolling with my scroll bar on my mouse, we can actually see that this all turned out pretty well. If you want to ungroup it, if you want to edit this at all, I just right-clicked on the image. We're going to click Ungroup All Objects because it's going to start groups. Joyce likes that we're moving along quickly. All right, cool. So now I can move these little parts of my ice cream cone all around nicely. I can change the color. Hit Control-Z, put that back where it goes. If I want some pink ice cream, I can go pink. Obviously, we all want chocolate, so I don't know why we would change it. But we got our pink ice cream now. And then we can also, again, move all these things around because it is ungrouped. Well, we got a good vector image here, and this trace actually worked out a lot better than most of them do. All right. Now, I mean, that's pretty much it for the bitmap trace. Again, you can do this with a lot of different images, your logos and things like that for your companies. And then once you're here, you can go ahead and add rhinestones too if you want to do that. This is a basic overview, so we're not going to go over that today. But we got our vector image. Was this one a vector or a bitmap? This one right here is our vector. Our bitmap is over here. And again, you can see, we'll look in the wireframe. You can tell this is the bitmap. Another thing with the bitmap, if I right-click, it's not going to let me ungroup. It's not going to let me really do anything with it because it's not a vector image. In Corel, we work with vectors. With our cutters, we work with vectors. So with the actual vector image, we can move it around. All right? So now, that was pretty quick, pretty easy. Let's go ahead and do another kind of tracing now, and we can come back to the bitmap trace if you guys have any more questions later. But now I'm going to move into the B-spline tool, and that is a tool that if you have the Stone Wizard and you have your toolbar, you can find that right here. If you don't have that, you can find it over here. So on the freehand tool, you can click the little flyout, that little arrow, and you can click on B-spline. We have a bunch of different ways to draw on here, but here is our B-spline tool. We're going to grab that, and an easy way to do this, what we're going to do is say we did this, say we did a trace bitmap, and it didn't work out well. Maybe we didn't have a great high-quality image to where it worked out, or it just didn't work for some reason. So we need to trace it a different way. We can do it with our B-spline tool. So this is, I usually use it as my backup. I try the trace bitmap because I can do it in 30 seconds and see how it looks. I always try that first. And if I can't do it that way, I'll come to the B-spline tool. So what I'm going to do is this, again, is our bitmap. So I'm going to take my B-spline tool. And we're going to do a few things with this. I'm going to come over here and just show you. Every time you click with your B-spline tool, you're going to create a curve. So every time I click, we're changing direction. All right, it's pretty much a freehand tool, but you don't have to sit there and trace it. It kind of connects the dots in there for you. That's my little wonky image. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start tracing. Doesn't really matter where you start, but I'm going to come around and I'm going to click. And one thing that you'll notice about the B-spline tool is that all of my corners are rounded. And every time I click, I'm creating a node. If you guys see those little squares in there, each of those is a node, which is kind of a direction change. And when I come back to where I started, I want to close this off. When I close it off, it's going to make a closed shape. If I don't close it off later on, we can have some issues filling in stuff. So when I come to here, I'm going to make sure it snaps to that last node, and I'm going to go ahead and double click. And now I can take back to my pick tool, and I can move this around and I have a little outline of the ice cream cone. Alright, and now I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to start working with our B-spline tool again. I'm going to do the bottom of our cone. So I'm going to start right here on that ice cream cone. I'm going to come down, and as I told you guys before, I don't know if you remember, every time you click, it's going to give you a node, but those are always going to be rounded edges. If I want to do a sharp edge, what I'm going to do is hold down the letter V, hold it down, and when I click and come back up, it's going to be a sharp corner. Alright, and so I'm going to come back up here, double click again, and close that shape off. Alright, so now I have our sharp edges and our round edges, and then we're going to come in here and let's just do our little lines. Double click, come here, trace, double click to close that off. So someone asked, so if we have more nodes, is that the best? So more nodes is good because you have a lot of options, and I'll show you some things you can do with those nodes. But if you want a simple shape, like this ice cream cone doesn't necessarily need a ton of nodes. These lines don't necessarily need a ton of nodes. But when I come back in later, I can always edit those nodes. So I can even add and subtract nodes later. And that's a great question. And I'm going to show you as soon as I finish these lines what we can actually do with all those nodes. So I'm just coming here, clicking, double click to finish that off. If I don't double click when I'm done with my line, I'm going to be left with this craziness, and it's going to kind of want to follow my mouse wherever I go. Even if I want to go up here to the pick tool, it's going to follow me wherever I go until I double click. So we always want to do that. Alright, and we're just about done there. Cool. So now I have that, and I can move my original image out of the way, and I'm left with an ice cream cone. Alright, and what we have here is we have an actual line. I know when we came over here we had a vector image, so it's actually filled in. And if I do like a black square, I'm going to put something behind it just to show you guys. Let's send it to the back. Yes, I will repeat that. Alright, so I'm going to send this to the back, and what you can see here is I have filled in shapes. What you can see here is just the ice cream cone. So I only have lines, it's not filled in. And so it's not a complete filled in object, or solid object rather. So what I'm going to do in order to make that, and if I look in my wireframe again, I'm just going to see those lines. We actually don't want to send these lines to a cutter. So I'm going to make these lines into more of an object, give it some depth, give it some thickness. So I'm going to grab all these little lines in this bottom ice cream cone, and I'm going to come up here and weld them. And Larry asked, once again, how we can make a sharp edge with our B-spline tool. So all I did, Larry, was I clicked once, I got rounded edges. If I hold down V before I click, then I'm going to get corners. Every time I click, I'm going to get a sharp edge. When I let go of V now, I'm going to have rounded edges. Is that good, Larry? Alright, cool. So back to my little ice cream cone. What I just did, I don't know if you guys remember, I went ahead and I welded all of these lines together because I had a bunch of individual lines and I just want them to be one object. So now I can click on this line, and again I'm going to show you in the wireframe, just a plain image, or just plain lines. I can move this thickness. Let's go back into our enhanced view. V is in Victor. That's going to be V, and it's easy to remember because V has that sharp edge on it when you actually look at it. That's how I remember it. It's pointy. So yeah, guys, when we want to make our sharp edges, we're going to hold on to V as in Victor. Again, I keep losing track of where I'm at, but we're going to take this ice cream cone and we're going to make the bottom thick. As you can see over here, that's pretty thick, and this isn't. Look in the wireframe. We have thickness, we have depth to these lines, we don't in these. So I'm going to go ahead and increase our size on these lines. So I got 0.5 of a point size now. I'm going to go ahead and increase it. Let's go to about 4. I don't like that. Let's go up to 8. So 8 looks almost the same as this one right here. And what we did was we increased the point size on the line, but it's still a line. So again, when I go back and forth to wireframe, and I want to make sure you guys are tracking this, this is another useful tool in Corel, so we can toggle back and forth. We still have really skinny straight lines, even though when we look in our enhanced view, we see something thick. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert these lines into an object, and that's this little square right here. If I click that, and you can do Control-Shift-Q. I never use it. I just use this one. It looks like a weird orange picture frame. I'm going to click there, and now when I look at my wireframe, I have thickness. I have depth to these lines. So those are lines that I can send to the cutter, and it's actually going to create an object for me. All right. Everyone good on that? And that's the convert lines to object, or convert outline to object button right here. And if you get lost, which I always do because all these squares look the same to me, you can just hover over it. This is our weld, break apart, and just make sure you're clicking the right button. Okay, so now I have one object here, and I don't want to do that necessarily with my ice cream cone because I'm just going to fill it in a color. So let's do some mint chocolate chip ice cream, some neon mint chocolate chip ice cream here, and then we're all set there. So now we have our cone. Looks very similar to this one. What I didn't do was trace any sprinkles. So we can just come in here, sprinkles, and we'll come around like that. And if I don't like how that turns out, I know I told someone, who was it that asked about the nodes? Michelle. Michelle was the one that asked about the nodes. So she asked if it was better if we have more nodes or less nodes for the shaping of the object. I start kind of in the middle. I try not to click a bazillion times just because a lot of nodes get messy. But what you can do, and I'm gonna work right up in here on the top of this cone. It is a little bit off. It's not exactly a perfect ice cream cone shape. So I'm going to click on it with my regular tool, with my pick tool. That's this guy right here. And then I'm going to go to the shape tool, and that's the one right below it. And this is one that's super useful. You can pretty much make anything with these very simple tools. And when I click on my shape tool, what I'm going to see is a bazillion nodes. And this is every time I clicked, it created one of these. So if I want to edit these nodes, if I want to make my shape a little bit different, maybe I messed up, maybe I didn't trace it properly, I could just move each of these nodes around. And I can hit Control-Z to undo it. If say I don't like a node, I don't even want a curve there, if I double click on this, it's going to go away. So if I double click on all these nodes, I'm really lessening the amount of ice cream that I have. And that's not cool. So we want to keep more ice cream. What else can we do with our nodes? I can pull this out. And do you guys see how we have this rounded corner right here and then the sharp corner on the node? If I want this to come out and actually extend all the way to the node, what I can do is I can click on the clamp button. If I click right there, it's going to extend all the way to the node. So I pull this node out here. If I click on that clamp, again, I can extend that out. And that's another way that we can get sharp corners if maybe we forgot to hold down V and we don't want to start all over. We can just click on that clamp. If I decide I don't like how that looks, I can do the unclamp. And I can do that on all of these. If I hold down Shift while I do that, so click one node, Shift, 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 I can unclamp all of them. And that's going to put my cone right back where it was. Another way that I can do these guys is I can move it out like that. Let's see what else we can do with our nodes. I can double click to remove it. I can double click to add a node. So I can bring that in like that. All right, is there any questions there on these nodes? I know they're a little bit tricky. Let's see what else we got with them. If I click on a node, it usually shows me my little arrows where they're at. Not seeing my arrows to be able to edit these nodes. But again, you can just pull them out. Usually you can change kind of the angle of the line that goes with it too. Why does the dotted line outline stay there? The dotted line isn't going to be there when we actually look at the image. It's only there for my shape tool to show the path of the nodes, the lines between the nodes. But as soon as I go back into my regular tool, those are going to go away. All right. Do we have any other questions on this? This is a pretty simple design, but it's something that can be applied to just about anything. Any design, any shape we pull from the computer, any JPEG that we have. I actually have used it to trace people. I traced Rudy's face the other day. He doesn't know that. but I did it, and it looks pretty sweet. So if you guys don't have any more questions on this, I'm going to pull it up another image, and we're going to go again. All right, we're going to start with another design. Let's see what we got. So I'm going to come into here, and again, I'm just going to Google for now to pull these up because I just want to show you guys what to do, but we don't prefer that you guys do that. So let's go. Let's see what we got. Alright, I just pulled, this is a design I was working on actually the other day. I was making it out of rhinestones, but I just have a little infinity sign, and this is actually going to be a great example when we do our bitmap trace, because as you can see, it's just not a super high quality image. So if I come in here, and again, we're going to start with the bitmap trace. We always start there because if we can get Corel to trace our object for us, and we don't have to do it, it's always going to be better for us. It's going to save us time. So let's go to clip art. Alright, and as we can see, that does not look good at all. That's not something we're going to want to send to our cutter. So let's go back and we'll try our other options. Let's try our line art. Still doesn't look good. Detailed logo looks even worse. Low quality image and high quality image. None of these look good. And now we can mess with our detail. Maybe we can tell it to give me more detail and it'll work. But at the end of the day, we're only going to get such a good image because this is so pixelated. And that's the trouble that we run into with JPEGs. When you stretch them, they become really pixelated. If you shrink them, they can just look weird. So we'll say, all right, whatever. We got that image. I don't like it. I don't want to use it. So I can come in with my B-spline tool. And I am going to just start at the center. Actually, let's start right here. We got our infinity sign with our love. That's a popular design. I was actually working on this design, and one of the girls that came in here, works here, she came into the office. She's like, oh, I have that tattoo. This is something that a lot of people have all over shirts and things like that. It's a popular little design right now. So I'm going to come around, and again, I'm just clicking. I want a sharp edge, so I'm going to hold my V. That is in the shape of a heart. All right, we got it. We got another person in here with that. Oh man. All right, clicking. I'm just gonna come around here, and I'm not even being too careful with this at all because you guys are distracting me with your comments. But now I'm gonna drag this away, and I have kind of a wonky love, but I went ahead and I just traced it real quick, so I can pull out my shape tool, and this will be good practice in playing with our nodes. I don't like how this looks at all. So I want, say, my L to be a little bit bigger. I'm going to drag across, and I'm going to select both of these nodes, and I can pull this up. Now I can make that a little bit smaller. I can bring this node in. Let's see here. I can unclamp this guy. And we'll make our O look a little bit more like an O. And this is something when you're tracing, you don't have to take your time that much. You don't have to be too careful because, again, you can always come in and just edit it just like this and make it look exactly how you want. That looks a little bit better. So what I'm going to do again is click right here on the love, and we're going to go up and we're going to increase our point size. Oop, right here. So let's go on this one. We'll go to like a 4. Still not quite as thick as we want it. There we go. Now we got a 10. Okay, so Debbie says she has some trouble figuring out how to close the node ends. Are you going to go over that? Yeah, we can absolutely do that now. Mine ended up being closed, but I can pull up an example right now. So I'll grab my B-spline tool, and so I think this is what Debbie was talking about. Debbie, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So say she accidentally comes in and moves it like that. So these nodes aren't closed. So if I come in here and I try to add color to it, it's not going to have color. If I come in here and I try to maybe smart fill it, it's going to be all jacked up and maybe even close down Corel, which I'm sure if we've worked in Corel for over a week, everyone has experienced the Corel crash, and it's awful. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make sure that these nodes are closed. So I grab my shape tool again, I'm going to come in here, and I zoom in real close when I work with my nodes just because I don't want to mess it up. And boom, I just dragged it one to the other. Now I can see that when I go to Smart Fillet, Carrie, why does Corel crash? Usually Corel crashes due to user error, honestly. It's usually we're overwhelming it. We're doing something that it's not really built to do, or that it we didn't do it in the proper way that Corel wants us to do it. 90% of the time it's our fault, but it happens. Debbie, does this answer your question on closing out the nodes? I know sometimes it gets a little bit more complicated than just a circle. But again, we're just going to come in, double click, and let's grab our shape tool, and we'll bring one node to the other. And again, if I like that corner and I want to clamp that to it, I can just do that. Patty Dykstra, how do you smart fill? Smart fill is the best. If you ever have a design that's not working how you want it to work, or something's off with it, a lot of the time if you come in and you smart fill it, and that's with this tool right here, the smart fill tool, click, and now we have an object. Thanks. Yep, and now we have our object, and that's all filled in, looking happy. Let's go back over here to our love. And again, what you guys saw me do last was I increased the point size to a 10 point. Now I can look at our wireframe, and I see that it's actually not an object still. So I'll go right back onto here, into our enhanced view, and I'll go ahead and convert outline to object. And let's see what we got. Oh, a quick trace. You get the offshoot nodes when you do the quick trace. Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about, Debbie. We'll work on that one next too. So now we have our love design complete. That was super simple. It took about 5 minutes, and that's all trace. So, Debbie, were you talking about when you come over to here? And this is our bitmap trace that we did. Didn't turn out well, so I just ditched it. But I think Debbie, what she's saying is she has problems with when we come in here and we work with our nodes. Sometimes it can get a bit tricky. Let's see. I've got to ungroup this guy first. There we go. So now we got some crazy nodes in here. And this is going to be a fun exercise in node wizardry because they're just all over the place. Honestly, Debbie, if you get a design like this and if you have all these crazy nodes, a lot of the times it's worth it just to ditch it because it's just going to be difficult to fix. So we have these little loopers. We have some sharp edges going on all around. What we can do is I usually start by deleting a bunch of nodes that I just don't like. So I come in here and I click on my shape tool. I actually don't even see any nodes around here. Let's grab our line and see if we can find some of the nodes that they belong to. And these are just going to, aha, here we go. These are the arrows that I was talking about that you get when you make your nodes. And these arrows, what they show is the actual angle of the vector. And vectors, honestly, they just refer to lines. And that's what these designs are made out of. So this is the actual vector that you get. And if I play with these arrows, they all correspond to a node. So you'll see the node that they come out of. It's going to be this guy right here. If I move it, I'm actually moving the trajectory of that shape of that line. So I can bring these together and I can play with these arrows and make sure that they're pointing straight. Because at the end of the day, with this design, we want a straight line. You can double click there and get rid of that. Now this is going to take a ton of work to play with. And just kind of get these all connected. Another thing that you can do is you can just say, forget it, I'm going to join this to this node. Double click, I created some nodes there. We can just join those. And then what I can do is I can come in, go to my shape tool, click right here, hold shift, click on the other one, and I can just try to weld these together and just get rid of all that nastiness. Click here, shift, click, weld, and at least we only have one design that we're working with now, one object. All right, so Debbie says she traces customers' logos and then she gets the nodes and a triangle node off to the side. She just deletes it, but it changes the logo. Okay, so that just looks like, honestly, and maybe that's a design that if you do get that, you can go ahead and call us in the call center and we can see exactly what's going on with it, but you never really know what's going to happen with those nodes. If it is like not a super high quality, not a super crisp image that you're getting, it could just not be able to read it well, and you can get these offshoot nodes that are just way out in the middle of nowhere and just don't have anything to do with it. But I have seen those before, and they are pretty frustrating to try to fix. Let's go ahead and clean this guy up a bit. If we want to clean up a design like this again, what we're going to do is just click on it, grab our shape tool, and let's bring this over. We can actually just go through it, delete. If I delete all of these nodes in here, what I can do is just get rid of all that garbage, pull these guys together, and then we can weld this image. So we'll grab our pick tool, click, hold shift, click, let's weld that. And now it's getting a little bit cleaner. Again, we have all these corners. With this, we don't really need all these corners, so we can just go through, double click, clean this up. And this is one of those cases where, honestly, it was better off for us just to do the B-spline trace because it's a simple design. I know I've done like random sports teams logos that are just super complicated. And you're awesome, Debbie. You're awesome. And it was better for me to just go in and do the B-spline tool because I was getting all of these crazy nodes. All right. Does anybody else have any questions about cleaning any of this up? We're moving pretty quickly. I mean, this is a tool that you can do a ton with it, especially with this B-spline tool in here. And there's just a lot of complications that come with it. Let's see. Let's play in here with these ice cream cones that we have. The trace bitmap again. Yeah, the Kiva, we can go over that trace bitmap. So here's our bitmap. And the Kiva, I'm not sure if you tuned in a little bit later, if you just want to see it again, but I'm going to go over all of it again. So what we have is ice cream. Ice cream is delicious. I'm going to look at our wireframe. And this we only have a square. So you can see that you have a grayed out image with a square again. If you ever go into your wireframe and you see this, you're going to want to start tracing because you don't have a vector image and you can't work with it in Corel. Yes, the webinar is being recorded, Miss Patty. And if you do need anything else, you know, you can give us a holler in the call center too. But we are recording it, and it should be posted usually within a week of when it starts. So let's see. The Kiva wants to go over this trace bitmap again, so I'm going to go back into our enhanced view. I'm going to move all this garbage out of the way so we can get back onto our workspace. And I'm just going to zoom in. I'm going to go to trace bitmap right here. You can also go to the bitmaps menu, and this is the same exact menu. So you have your quick trace, your center outline trace, and your outline trace. I always use this one because it's right here, and I'm lazy. So we're going to go to our outline trace. And we have, again, our options. So we can do, I always start with either clip art or detailed logo. So let's start with detailed logo this time. And it's going to give us this. I never even read the whole thing. I just click reduce bitmap instantly. And this is loading for us. Now this is our power trace menu. It's going to give us the preview of before and after. And what we see is a checkerboard pattern in the background. That's going to show us that it actually went in and deleted the background of this white. If we don't want to remove the background, so say I uncheck this, it will leave the background there. And now this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the delete original image button, and that is going to get rid of our bitmap, the one that we had originally. So I see this object, some options that we can go through in here. This is our detail. If I bring the detail way down, I'll show you guys what we get. We get a super simple outline of what we had. Usually we don't want that. Usually we want higher detail. If I bring it in the middle, it'll give us some, but you can see the bottom of the cones are messed up. I think we're even missing some sprinkles, and we never want to be missing our sprinkles. So we'll increase the detail all the way up. Here's our smoothing. Again, we can bring that all the way up. Doesn't really seem to be making a huge difference here. that's just going to make your object more smooth, give it less kind of sharp angles and corners and stuff. Alright, and what else can we do? Oh, we can scroll through these. These are the same options that we saw before. So say we pulled in our ice cream cone and the first object, or the first option we picked was line art. Let that load. It's actually going to go through and retrace it as line art, and all we're going to see is these very simple, very basic ice cream cones. We don't like that. We like to have those lines in there because we want it to look exactly the same. So now I can scroll through, go to our logo option, and see what it's going to give us. That one looks almost good. Again, we're missing those bottoms. So I'm going to go back to the detailed logo. Perfect. I'll hit OK. And now we have our vector image. So when I look at my wireframe now, I'm going to see a perfectly traced ice cream cone. Let's see. Let's go back into our enhanced view. This is all grouped together. So if you want to come in and you want to group this a little bit more, or you want to edit it a little bit more, since it's grouped, we're going to right-click. We're going to click on Ungroup All. And now I can drag each little individual part of this away. So I can drag out the yellow. Say I want to come in here and get rid of these sprinkles. I can do that. So I can just click and delete, or I can click, hold down Shift, and delete, and then let's go to our Shape tool. Click right in here. So now again we're going to be playing with nodes, and or with vectors. We're never going to get away from playing with these nodes. We're always going to be screwing with them, trying to make this look a little bit better. I can come up here to my lasso tool. It's kind of like the pick tool, except you can actually select. Oh, there we go. Guess you can't do that with nodes. I lied to you guys, sorry. I can double click on these, and I can actually go ahead and get rid of these sprinkle lines, so we can get rid of all of those. And again, we're just editing this image, so if we take it and we have our logo that we want to trace, but maybe we want to change it a bit, clean it up a bit, you can do that right in here with these nodes. Oh, and look, I deleted some nodes I didn't want to. Again, I can just hit Control-Z, come in here, and we can always double click on individual nodes to get rid of them. Now they're gone, and we just have our plain ice cream. All right. So there's our bitmap trace again, and Lakiva, I'm going to show you one more example of our bitmap trace that didn't go very well. So let's take this infinity sign design, and I'm going to shrink it down. This is a design that you can just see, looking at it from first glance, it's not a high quality image. You can see all the pixels. It just doesn't look nice. It's not something you would really want to work with anyway. So let's take our trace. Let's go with detailed logo and see what we get. Doesn't look anything like the original. So click on line art. See how that looks a little bit better. Clip art a little bit better. Maybe we can increase the detail. Increase the smoothing. And these are all things that it's really just guess and check with tracing. Start here, see how it looks, and if you need to edit it, you need to edit it. Just kind of take your time playing with these options, because the better trace that you can get, the easier it's going to be for the rest of the design process for you. We're going to, again, just keep playing, hit alright. And now, again, we have our image. It's all grouped together. I can right-click, ungroup all. And let's get rid of some of this nonsense in here. So there, again, is our little infinity sign design. I went ahead and I created that with the B-spline tool. I went ahead and traced it in like 45 seconds, and it looks way better than the trace. So if you try the bitmap trace and it doesn't work out well for you the first time, don't freak out. Just go ahead and try to trace it yourself. See how it turns out. Again, increase your thickness on your line, convert it to an object, and a lot of times it looks fine. We did it with our ice cream cone as well. I went ahead and I made it wonky as I was showing you guys how to play with our nodes, but we can fix this up again. Bring it down. So, oh, Rudy came to visit. Alright guys, sorry, Rudy came in. Showed me he wants me to do a basketball. Alright. So here it is, and just one more image again, just to go over that tracing. Some stranger named Magic Mike says he'd like to see Rudy's Valentine's Day design. That is a design that is top secret, and we're actually keeping that under wraps until it gets closer to Valentine's Day. But I just want you guys all to know that there is a phenomenal design that's going to be coming to a TRW near you very soon, and I think you should all buy it. Let's see, Michelle, a wrestler. We're going to start with this basketball one more time just to show you guys a little bit more of a complicated image than what we've been doing. So I'm going to come in here. Again, I have our basketball. This is going to be a good one because you can see it's got a lot of different colors in it. So, oh no! Rudy saw it. Rudy saw my Valentine's Day design because I let him on my computer while I'm on his. Dang it, the surprise is ruined. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a bitmap trace with this basketball. Let's start with a low quality image. Again, see what we get. I'm not impressed. We got all of these colors. That's not something that we're going to want to cut. Usually if we want to do a basketball, we want it to be all orange. So let's go to logo, see what we get. Detailed, maybe our clip art. Alright, that one looks a little bit better. So we can come in here, we can click OK. And now we have our vector image. We'll check again, make sure it's a vector. It is. And we've got our basketball. This is something that, you know what, it looks kind of ugly. We're going to have a lot of nodes to clean up if we do end up wanting to use this image. We're going to have to come in here, we're going to have to come with our shape tool, get rid of all this nonsense. We have all these jagged corners, all these colors, and it might be easier just to go in and do a bitmap trace. Clicking on the wireframe lets you know if it's a vector. Lakiva asked that. I use the wireframe to check if it's a vector image, and I can show you the difference right here because I just pulled in the JPEG, and here's the one we just traced. So if I look in my wireframe, what I see is I see an actual basketball shape here. It's got all of our different pieces to it. I can pull it apart and I can play with it. If I come in here with the bitmap image, it's made of pixels again and not lines, then I see a square around a grayed out image. When I right click on it, it's not going to let me ungroup. It's not going to let me do anything with it because it's pretty much useless here in Corel. So we'll go back in and do our enhanced view. And now we're going to do the B-spline trace. And I'll show you guys just the difference in our bitmap trace and our B-spline here. So I'm going to grab the B-spline tool. Again, this is where it is on our TRW toolbar. But if you have your regular CorelDraw toolbar, it's right here under the freehand tool. Whatever one you used most recently will be up. So you can click on the little flyout, go to B-spline. So I'm going to come in here. Actually, this is a circle. So the easiest way to do this is going to be to grab our circle tool. And if I draw a circle like this, it's going to come out like an oval. Usually it's not going to be perfect. If I hit Control while I draw a circle, it's going to make it a perfect circle every time. And that's the same with squares and other shapes. It'll make it just that perfect image. Let's bring this circle up here to this basketball. And I'll stretch it out. Try to make it the same size. Alright, now I have a circle. Alright, so Nicole's asking how would you trace a photo of a person, the face specifically. That's a little bit more difficult. It's pretty hard to do. If you have the silhouette of a person, it's much easier to trace just the outline. So you can pull in the picture, and just like we're doing the basketball, you just bring the B-spline tool around them. To do their face, it's going to take a little bit of time. You actually have to go in there and follow it along with the B-spline tool, unless you have another program. But Nicole, that's a good question. It would take you some time. Oh, and look, we do have a video on this. I don't know where that is, but I'm sure it's a great video. So let's move back to our basketball. I got our circle on here, I got our ball, so I'm going to go into the wireframe. And that's just going to help me to see things a little bit more clearly. Let's grab our B-spline tool, and with this I'm just going to come across. I don't have to be too careful, I can just kind of click around, double click to finish that off, come around our lines, double click, and you guys can see I messed up there, so we'll come back later and fix that. Double click, and let's come in here and double click to finish that line off. And here's our basketball. Now this, I wasn't especially careful while I was tracing it, as you can see. And I have some nodes that are kind of jacked up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab it all, and I'm going to convert it to an outline. If I hit Control-Z, again, we can be in our wireframe, and you'll see that it's just a regular line. When I go to Enhance, you can see that it's actually thick. So we're going to convert it to an object. Now when we go into our wireframe, we're going to see lines with depth. And if you look in here, well, if we send this to the cutter just as it is, we're going to get cuts in our vinyl. So that's going to screw up our cut. It's going to screw up our vinyl. So what we can do is we're just going to grab this one line. I'm going to hold Shift, grab the outline, and we're going to weld those together. I'm going to do that right here. Let's weld that together, and we're in wireframe so we can see this. If we were in our enhanced view, we couldn't always see it. Before you send anything to the cutter, I would always check the wireframe just to see if you have anything off. With this one, again, I know we were talking earlier about closing off nodes that weren't connected. I just went into our shape tool, highlighted both, and I'm going to drag it down to the outline of the ball. And now I can weld them together. So we'll get out of our shape tool, we'll go to our pick tool, select, shift, get the outline, and weld it. Looks like we got just about everything welded together. Do y'all see any points that are going to cut bad? Should be good. Alright, and the last thing that we're going to have to deal with is where we went over on our B-spline tool. We got this little corner. We don't want that to be there. So again, shape tool, I can just come in and delete all these extra nodes. Double click to delete that one. We can select these, delete them, delete that node, and we got a good smooth line. Delete these. And we should be all set there. Let's get out of wireframe. Now this is just a one color design. If you want it to be a two color, you can always bring in our smart fill. Fill that in. And of course, let's change it from pink and pink. Let's make it an orange ball. There we go. So that one's set. Oops. We want to do our outline black. So when I pull this out, our outline out, we're going to have our two color design. So you can go ahead and cut it just like that. And then you can place that on your t-shirt, on your decal, whatever you want to do with that. If you don't want it to be two color, again, you don't have to fill it in. You can just leave it as your one color. You can have your shirt showing through. That's just whatever you guys want to do with that. Alright, so we're just about ready to wrap up. Does anybody else have any questions on any of the B-spline tool options, any of the bitmap traces? Once you get used to it, again, it's going to be difficult at first. It looks a little bit overwhelming sometimes, especially if you have a complex design. But the more you play with these sort of things, the more you're going to be able to do it quickly, do it easily, and kind of guess what you're going to want, how you're going to want to start, whether you're going to want to start with your B-spline or whether you're going to want to go ahead and see if the trace bitmap is going to work for you. Alright, I'm going to give a last call for any more questions, and then we're going to close out. But if you guys are working with any of this and you do have issues, you can always just give us a call, give Rudy a call, and bug him, and have him help you out. But I don't see any more questions coming through. Show us Rudy's face. I can't show you Rudy's face. You'll see it on Valentine's Day, though, and I want everyone to make their designs, put them on a shirt, and send your pictures to Rudy, because that's the only thing that's going to make him happy. All right. Well, you guys are awesome. Thanks for putting up with me. And again, have any more questions, just let us know. We'd love to help you out. Trade show shirt. Yes, do it. Dan Gray. Daniel the Gray. He's my favorite. All right. Guys, I'm leaving. I'm going to go back to work. You guys have a great day. Bye.